What is up, guys? Kid Kritic is back with the 6th episode of the Kid Kritic Movie Podcast, where we talk about movies and all that other fun stuff. Now, look, I meant to upload this 2 days ago, but there's just so much technology problems I just had to redo it, because originally what was planned is that I was going to get Graham Cracker from the week before, who was on the podcast. We did a recording of it, and then it was just so much trouble. Like, we ran into so many issues to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to re-record the whole thing because I just need the 6th episode up. So with that said, I'm going to talk about the same topics that we talked about. And I got to admit, I was pretty bummed because that was actually a really solid episode. Oh my god. It just frustrated me. And it was just... it was stressful, absolutely stressful, but don't worry, this will be another wonderful episode. It's gonna be huge. We'll talk about a bunch of stuff, and we will do a little spoiler review for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because there's just a lot in that movie to talk about, especially when it comes down to spoilers. We'll talk about some other news. Now, I won't talk about any news that came out in the last 2 days. I'll save that for episode 7. So we have lots to talk about, so without further ado, let's start this podcast. What is up, guys? Kid Kritic is back with the 6th episode of the Kid Kritic Movie Podcast, where we talk about movies and all that other fun stuff, and this is going to be a fun one today. We got lots to talk about. We're going to do our Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spoiler review. That's going to be tons of fun. I want to talk about The Boys, because I've seen The Boys. Well, not all The Boys. I'm on the 6th episode, so, I'm almost there. I want to talk about some Avengers Fire directors. We're going to talk about Baby Driver 2. We're going to talk about the huge year Disney's having at the box office and a whole lot of other fun stuff, so I cannot wait. But before we get into that fun stuff, I first got to talk about something over the weekend that happened, and it is horrible, absolutely horrible. I'd just like to give my condolences from the Kid Kritic family to all the shootings that happened this weekend, because it is nasty. It is absolutely disgusting. So that's why I am here. I'm here to brighten those people's day up, if they are listening. So with that said, let's move on to the reason we are here. Let's talk about some movie news. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, however, before we get into the movie news, I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark like the first 20 minutes. Like, my grandfather came over. I'm like, you know what? Pop up Raiders of the Lost Ark. And there's just something magical about watching a movie with an audience, especially like in a movie theater. That's why I hope, even though we're in the age of streaming services, that movie theaters don't go away, because even when the movie absolutely stinks, the experience is definitely enhanced when you're watching it with a crowd, especially with a good crowd. I mean, when a crowd's just silent, then it doesn't really do much. But the point is, because I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark, and my grandfather was giggling like a 4-year-old girl. I put on Infinity War a couple months ago, and he was giggling just the same way, and it's the best. It enhances the movie watching experience, and it's just great. It is absolutely great. So I just thought, I'm like, you know what, if movie theaters ever go away, and they most likely will, it's gonna be a sad one. It's gonna be a sad when that news comes out, but hopefully we're a long time from that. So anyways, like I said in the beginning of this podcast, I watched a show. That's right, I watched a show by the name of The Boys. Now, it is based off of a comic book series, if you guys did not know, and it basically shows more of a realistic view if superheroes were in the real world, which I liked a lot, because if this comic book genre wants to be successful and continue, especially coming off of Endgame, for a long time, it definitely has to evolve, because if it just stays like how it is now, in the next 5 years, this genre of movies is probably going to go downhill. It's not going to make nearly as much money as it is now. So I think this is a great way, because The Boys is definitely something we have never seen before, and there's like no good character in this movie. Even characters that are nice, they still have like a little bit of like greediness to them. but this show definitely shows a lot more of the corruption side if there are superheroes in the real world. Like, it's not, to them, it's not about saving the world. It's more about, like, how much money you're making, how many movies do you have, how are you going to market this superhero, like, and all that. So it definitely shows a lot of more of the greediness and the corruption, which I really, really enjoyed. It's my favorite part of the show, and the performances are fantastic. Now, everybody's talking about Karl Urban, and I agree with him. Karl Urban is fantastic in this show. I love Karl Urban. I can see him in anything, but the characters also are fantastic. The Seven, who's kind of like the Justice League, basically. I'm not a fan of their costumes either, though. That's not what this show's about, but their characters are jerks, but they're still phenomenal characters. And everybody's talking about Homelander, and that guy deserves a nice little punch in the face. I'd love to see a fight between him and Superman, and I'm sure Superman would win, because that guy, he's horrible, but he's a great character. But I've enjoyed the show so far. I am 2 episodes away from finishing it, but I am digging it. The characters are great. It definitely shows a more realistic view that we've never seen before, with superheroes in the real world, with all the corruption and everything. The characters are phenomenal. Everybody talked about that airplane scene in episode 4, just like they talked about episode 5 in season 2 of Barry. And then when I got that, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. And that scene is heartbreaking to watch. It is heart-wrenching. There's also a lot of violence in this show. It's just absolutely incredible. There are some great scenes, great comedic scenes. There are some great dramatic scenes. And then the boys, like the group of the boys, like the main, I guess, good guys, you'd say, but they're kind of bad guys at the same time, really. But they are really solid characters, and overall the show is just awesome. If you guys have not seen it, make sure to see it. It is on Amazon Prime right now. It is fantastic. It's already greenlit for season 2, which is amazing. I hear the show leaves off on a cliffhanger, so hopefully it's a good cliffhanger, which I hear it is. So with that said, let's move on to the next topic. Now, the Russo brothers have come out and said, you know what, we're getting away from Marvel, which I like a lot. They're obviously producing that 21 Bridges movie starring Chadwick Boseman, and they got a bunch of other movies. They have their production company that's producing a lot of movies right now. They're doing Battle of the Planets currently. Well, they might direct it, but they're definitely producing it. So they're doing a bunch of stuff right now that's away from the MCU, which I really like. So they're not going to come back to direct Avengers 5, at least for now. So I'm like, you know what? I'll make my top 3 list on who should direct Avengers 5. Now, I personally want something new. Now, I've loved all the directors they brought on board, from Jon Favreau, who's one of my favorite directors right now, to Joss Whedon, who's amazing, to Ryan Coogler, to Scott Derrickson, to Peyton Reed. It's just amazing. I've loved all the directors that they've brought on board, the Russo brothers. But I thought, you know what, I want something new. Now, I have my 3 list. Now, the first director I want to bring up, now, he's had his history with Marvel in the past, but I'm like, you know what, maybe they can make up. I mean, it was a very civilized departure between Marvel and this person, and that is Edgar Wright. Now, Edgar Wright was obviously supposed to direct Ant-Man years ago, and that obviously never happened, as Peyton Reed has directed the Ant-Man films. Now, it seemed very civilized, at least what I've seen, so maybe they can, come together, because I love Edgar Wright. The main reason why I love Edgar Wright is Baby Driver. That movie is utterly fantastic. It was like my second favorite movie of that year, and the only reason it's not second is because another fantastic film by the name of Logan came out that year. But Baby Driver is so good. Just the way he handled the music, the performances. I mean, Ansel Elgort, that's what really put him on the map for me. He is fantastic. Jamie Foxx is great. John Hamm is great. He Who Shall Not Be Named was in the movie, and there was some great. Lily James was fantastic in the movie. The film was just so great. It was suspenseful. It was a lot of great comedic moments, lots of good back and forth. Fantastic film. So that's why I kind of want Edgar Wright, because I think he knows how to play with comedy well, definitely knows how to do character well, and some great emotional scenes as well. So that's why I'd want Edgar Wright on there. The second person I'd want on it, either though He's working on a movie right now for another studio, but, I mean, James Gunn's doing the same thing, so maybe this could happen, and that is Matt Reeves. I love Matt Reeves. What he did with that Apes trilogy, or he did Dawn and then War, what he did with those two Apes movies is just phenomenal. It is absolutely phenomenal. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, fantastic movie. It's brilliant. He made Caesar feel like a real person. Caesar, oh my God, it's just heart-wrenching. Then, spoiler alert for Dawn and War, but when Caesar dies in War, oh my God. Matt Reeves knows how to do character right now. Like I said, he's doing the Batman, but James Gunn's doing Suicide Squad 2, so he can come back. But Matt Reeves just knows how to do character well. He knows how to pull off the action. It is fantastic. If they announce tomorrow, I mean, they're not going to announce anything for Avengers 5 tomorrow, but if they were to announce Matt Reeves as Avengers 5, count me in as absolutely hyped. Now, somebody else who I don't think anybody's really thought of, especially now that Marvel's going into more of a female, like, centric, like, there's definitely a lot more females playing into the MCU, which is awesome, but I think Catherine Bigelow would be a fantastic choice. Obviously, The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, and she just did this movie called Detroit, which if you guys have not seen, I actually have a review on it back in the early Kid Kritic days. It is so good. Detroit is haunting and intense. Oh my goodness. If she was to bring that to an Avengers movie, like, oh, it would be so good. Now, maybe it's not what they're aiming for, but she would be a solid pick. I mean, she would be, the second female director in the MCU? Or no, third female director, because Chloe Zhao's directing on Shang-Chi. But it would be awesome if she were to direct Avengers 5. Now, I have another pick. I lied. I do have another pick. I just saw this. Now, this is my number one pick. You guys ready? I brought up this movie by the name of Logan, and that is James Mangold. James Mangold has Ford vs. Ferrari coming out this year. Now, there's a lot of people that poo-poo on the Wolverine movie, but to be honest, it's kind of handcuffed with that film. I actually liked it until the end, but Logan is one of the best comic book movies ever made. It is top 3 for me. Dark Knight, number 1 all day, every day. But James Mangold would be a brilliant pick. Oh my God. It would be just fantastic, because what he did with the character of Logan, not just Logan, but with Professor X and X-23, was just fantastic. You've never seen it before in a comic book movie. It is brilliant. I mean, the scenes that he was able to pull off, the dramatic scenes were phenomenal. And if James Mangold was to get a hold of Avengers 5, oh my God, just brilliant. Now, maybe I'm forgetting some other directors. I mean, yeah, Steven Spielberg's like my dream pick, because he's the best director of all time, in my opinion. I mean, just come on. I mean, yes, you also have people like Denis Villeneuve, but to be honest, I don't really see him directing an Avengers movie. And then you also have Christopher Nolan, and I mean, he's kind of done with those superhero movies. And, I mean, if they were to bring back somebody, I'd probably choose Joss Whedon, just because I love the first Avengers. I think Age of Ultron's very underrated. I think Joss Whedon would be a fantastic choice, and you definitely see him more coming around with the MCU. So that's my pick. I'd have probably at the number 4 spot, as most likely at number 4, I'd probably put Edgar Wright, and then I'd put Matt Reeves, and then Catherine Bigelow, and then I'd put James Mangold. But James Mangold, oh my God, that'd be so great. James Mangold's a fantastic director. Now, again, maybe there's directors I am not thinking of, but as of right now, I'm choosing James Mangold because he is fantastic. He has Ford vs. Ferrari coming out this year very soon, and I cannot wait for that. It looks amazing. You have Matt Damon, Christian Bale in there. You also got John Bernthal. Yeah, I am in. And if James Mangold direct this, whoo. Now, speaking of Edgar Wright and Baby Driver, there's apparently Baby Driver 2 coming out. Now, I believe it was Ansel Elgort came out and said that there was a script for this movie, apparently, that Edgar Wright has finished and that he's reading it. But apparently Ansel Elgort is doing West Side Story, which is directed by the greatest filmmaker of all time, Steven Spielberg. The remake, obviously, from the classic 50s West Side Story. But, so right now he's doing that. Now, Baby Driver 1 is like in the same scenario for me as like A Quiet Place, where I don't think we need a sequel for any of them, because I think Baby Driver ended in a good place, and I think A Quiet Place ended in a good place, where I don't think I need a sequel. Well, there's been a lot of movies where I'm like, you don't need a sequel, and they end up being just fantastic. Now, or it can go the absolute just wrong direction and be absolutely horrible. Who knows? But I am excited, absolutely, especially with Edgar Wright coming back, and Ansel Elgort, obviously. I'm sure Lily James will also be back, and spoilers for Baby Driver, maybe Christopher Plummer will be in there too, but, well, we know Jamie Foxx isn't coming back because his character's dead. We know John Hamm isn't coming back because his character's dead, but I think it could be really, really fun, but it can also be really, really bad. But I mean, that's with all movies. So I'm really excited for it because I love the first Baby Driver. But at the same time, I'm also nervous about it because I love the Baby Driver so much that I'm like, I don't know if we need a sequel. But Edgar Wright says, I got an idea, so what the heck? Do it. But yes, those are my thoughts on the Baby Driver 2 sequel. Now, there's been a little rumble in the jungle when it comes to box office, and that is the mouse is he's just dropping bombs. Like, he is making money like nothing. Like, $1 billion is like pocket change now for Disney. It is absolutely insane. Now, they've made $7 billion already, and it's only August. That is crazy. They beat their 2016 record, and you're only halfway through the year, or a little bit more than halfway through the year, and you still have Episode 9, which is probably going to be $1 billion movie. You have Maleficent, which the first one made a lot of money, and you have Frozen 2, which is probably going to be $1 billion movie. Now, get this. Now, Captain Marvel made $1 billion. I was really surprised that Captain Marvel made $1 billion, but I'm glad because I really enjoyed the movie. And then you had Dumbo, which made around the $400 million mark. That's like they're one, like, but whatever. And then you had Aladdin, which surprisingly made $1 billion. And who saw that coming? Because not a lot of people were big fan of the trailers, but so many people, so much of the audience enjoyed the film that they just kept on watching it and watching it. And then you also have Endgame, which is the reigning champ right now at the box office at $2.7 billion. Far From Home, if you count that as a Disney movie, but it's like a Sony movie, but depends how you look at it. But that made $1 billion. Toy Story 4 is at $927 million, and it still hasn't opened in a lot of markets, so it's probably going to make $1 billion. The Lion King has made $1 billion in less than 2 weeks, which is absolutely incredible. So you add all that up, and Disney has already made $7.2 billion. And just with the MCU alone, they've almost made $5 billion. It is absolutely crazy what the mouse is doing. Now, most people have been saying, and I get what they're coming from. I mean, I had the same reaction too a couple times, where they're like, oh my gosh, Disney's owning everything. Like, this is going to be all kiddie-ish, and they're just going to keep doing a bunch of cash grabs. Now, look. And they also said, oh my god, all these franchises that are rated R, they're probably going to be like cartoons now. And I agree with them. I also had a little bit of that worry. But something that Disney knows is that these franchises like Alien, like a Deadpool, which is probably going to end up in the MCU, which kind of stinks, but like an Alien, which were rated R franchises in the past. Like a Terminator, if they continue with the Terminator, but those franchises rated R in the past, and they were successful as rated R films. Now, these movies are not going to be under the Disney banner. They're probably going to be under the Fox banner, but just so that way they don't mess up, their brand. But something that Disney realizes, okay, these franchises were successful in the past as rated R films. We don't want to screw that up. That's what I'm hoping they're thinking, because if they don't, then I'm going to be in the same boat as those other people, but I mean, they've already confirmed that yes, Alien and all that will continue being rated R films. So, I mean, you also have that, but I mean, it's a business at the end of the day. Every studio is trying to make money. And the Mouse is definitely doing that. Bet you Bob Iger is just sitting on a throne of cash money and just, laying back and chilling. But who knows? Maybe he's buying Universal right now. But it is absolutely insane what Disney is doing. And to be honest, all you can do is just applaud. Like, this is something that you've never seen before. And, I mean, it's absolutely insane. Don't forget, they also have amusement parks. They also have hotels. They also have cruises. They also have water parks, and that makes them a buttload of money, especially with the amount tickets cost now, which is absolutely insane. But it is incredible the feat that Disney has pulled off this year, and all you can do is applaud them. Now, the next thing we will talk about is that Venom. That's right, Venom will be getting, or the sequel to Venom is going to be getting a new director. And the first director of Venom was Ruben Fleischer. Now look, I am very split with Venom. How I describe Venom is the same way I describe Suicide Squad. I liked Venom. I didn't like the movie. He was in, Tom Hardy and Venom were a great relationship, and they were really good in the movie. But overall, that movie is just deeply flawed, and there's a lot of things wrong about it. Just like how I thought the Suicide Squad, I liked the Suicide Squad. I just did not like the movie they were in, and that's kind of the same way that I felt about Venom. Now, people have been there's been a lot of rumors suggesting that Andy Serkis is going to be the director. Now, he most likely is, especially with that Tom Hardy stuff that he posted of a picture of Andy Serkis. So he's most likely going to direct. However, there's been 3 runner-ups, and that is Andy Serkis is most likely going to get it, but I just thought this would be a fun topic to talk about. So you have Andy Serkis, Rupert Wyatt, and Travis Knight. Now, I think Andy Serkis would be a solid choice because he did a romance film a couple years ago that I hear was really good. I haven't seen it. And then he did Mowgli, which I'm also very split on. That's definitely very different from the Disney movie, as it shows a lot more of the village. But to be honest, I was just like, this is kind of forgettable. I kind of forget about that movie. But I think he could be a solid choice, especially. I mean, he was also the second unit director on the Lord of the Rings film, so you also have that. Now you have Rupert Wyatt, who directed Rise of the Planet of the Apes, it's brilliant. I remember watching that movie, I'm like, oh, that was really good. And I rewatched it, I'm like, this movie is fantastic. Now, he's also been on a little bit of a slump as he just directed that movie, Captive State, which I hear wasn't so good. And he's directed a couple movies that I also heard wasn't so hot. Now, this is the pick that's probably not going to be chosen, but I wished he was, and that is Travis Knight. I adore Travis Knight. Now, I haven't seen Kubo and the Two Strings, because I just didn't get a chance to get around to it, though I really still want to watch it. However, I did see Bumblebee, and if you guys saw my review, I love Bumblebee. It is so good. Definitely the best Transformers film to date, which is not very hard, to be honest. And I love Bumblebee. He does so well with character and emotion and comedy. And it is just so great. Even action, he thought he did really well with Bumblebee. I mean, just look at the Cybertron scene. That was absolutely just, whoa, nerd-chilling. And Travis Knight would be amazing. I love Travis Knight. He's one of my favorite directors right now. But I think Andy Serkis is definitely going to be the pick to be chosen, which, I mean, I don't have a problem with. I mean, I'd rather have Travis Knight. But Andy Serkis is a solid choice. I mean, he's better than, I don't know, Michael Bay, I guess, or to be honest, even more than Rupert Wyatt, either though I like Rupert Wyatt, either though I haven't seen any of his stinkers, nor do I care. So, with that said, let's move on. Now, some trailers came out this week, and the first trailer that came out was for this movie, starring your new Batman, Robert Pattinson, and who used to be in a superhero movie called Spider-Man, who played your Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe, called The Lighthouse. Now, I said this in my trailer reaction, which make sure to check it out, that this movie's probably going to get a lot more pop because Robert Pattinson has the whole Batman role, but seeing the trailer, this movie's probably it's only going to be for a selected audience. It's definitely not going to be a movie for the general audience, I'd say. But look, this trailer doesn't show you much, nor do I care, because it's the first trailer. I don't really care to see another trailer, because at the end of the day, I was in. This movie is a psychological horror all the way, or a thriller, and it looks amazing. Now, I heard somebody say because obviously the aspect ratio is definitely different than we see nowadays. But somebody said that probably has to do more on making you more claustrophobic. I'm like, that is really true, and I thought that was actually really smart. It's black and white, which I don't really care. It's fantastic. I mean, you see like an octopus and spiders and all that. I'm like, ooh, that looks ugh. I mean, Willem Dafoe with that beard. Oh my god, it looks so good. Robert Pattinson looks fantastic. Now, again, I don't really know much about Robert Pattinson. I haven't even seen the Twilight movies. I'm sure if this movie definitely gets more pop, more people will pay attention to it, and I think more people will be more opened up to Robert Pattinson being the new Batman. I mean, I'm already good with it because I heard he's amazing in all these other films. So, I mean, the Twilight series isn't even his fault. I mean, I haven't seen the movies, but what I hear, it wasn't even his fault. So, I am definitely excited for this movie. But you know, another movie that's like up there, it is one of my most anticipated movies for the rest of the year, and that is Martin Scorsese's The Irishman. That is right, starring Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci, Harvey Keitel. Oh yeah, I am in. Now the trailer came out, I was so excited. Obviously that little rinky-dink thing TV spot for from the Super Bowl, which even though you saw nothing, I still got excited. But then I saw the trailer come out, I'm like, ooh, I cannot wait. Which, by the way, make sure to check out the trailer reaction of The Irishman on the Kid Kritic channel. But I loved the trailer. I loved it. I see why people didn't like it, but to be honest, I just have such a bias to seeing these actors and this director just working together that I just love it. I don't care if it's just them drinking coffee. And just right when Joe Pesci speaks, it is like God just entered the room. It is a force to reckon with. Joe Pesci, he's amazing. I love him. I mean, Goodfellas, he's great. Home Alone, he's the Wet Bandits. Casino, Raging Bull. I mean, he is so good. I adore Joe Pesci. And to be honest, it doesn't look like it's gonna be Scorsese's best. I mean, that's kind of hard to beat because one of my favorite movies of all time is Goodfellas. And to be honest, I know a lot of people are probably going to throw their computer or phone out the window when I say that I put Goodfellas on the level or tier of The Godfather. And I don't care because I adore that movie. It's one of the movies that got me into movies, and I absolutely love Goodfellas. Now, this is like the first movie that you really get to see Al Pacino and Robert De Niro play off each other with Joe Pesci in there. Because yes, they were in The Godfather 2, but that obviously they never saw each other. And then they were in Heat, but here they were only like in one scene together. So this is like the first movie that you really get to see them play off each other. And you already saw a scene of Joe Pesci and Al Pacino, and I already started crying. It looked utterly fantastic. I cannot wait to see this trio. As soon as they hop on screen, I'm just gonna lose it. My brain is gonna explode, and I sadly probably won't be able to watch the rest of the movie because my brain will be just absolute mush. I cannot wait to see The Irishman. It comes out on Netflix. It's gonna premiere at the New York Film Festival, which is just great. I mean, that shows some extreme confidence. It's probably obvious that this movie is gonna get some Oscars, and it better because it's gonna be great. I already know it. It is going to be great. I already have an opinion of this movie, and I know it's gonna be great. Now, let's move on to some more news. Now, Olivia Wilde, who just directed Booksmart, which I enjoyed. I don't put it like nowhere near on par with like a Superbad. I know a lot of people loved it. I didn't love it as much as they did, but I thought it was a really good time, and I thought she did a really great job with that movie. It's definitely a great job for her, that being her first movie. Now, she's doing a very different movie. She's doing a psychological horror, which sounds fantastic. Now, to me, what makes a great director is when they can do amazing stuff in different genres. That's why Steven Spielberg is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, because from Jaws to E.T. to Schindler's List to Saving Private Ryan to The Color Purple to Catch Me If You Can to Ready Player One, it is absolutely insane, to Close Encounters. And that, to me, that's what makes a great filmmaker. And that's definitely what looks like she's doing. And there's been a lot of auctions. There's been a lot of offers for this movie. Apparently, there's been 18 offers for this movie. So that's definitely must be great. So I love that she's doing something different. And again, I love psychological thrillers. I mean, my favorite horror movie of all time is The Shining, which definitely has a lot of psychological stuff in there. And you can probably say that movie is a psychological thriller, which I don't disagree with you. But I love psychological thrillers, and Olivia Wilde is definitely a solid director, at least what I've seen. But who knows, this movie may suck. But as far as I know, this movie looks pretty good. But you know what other movie looks really good that's getting put together right now? And that is the new Guillermo del Toro follow-up film from Shape of Water, which I love. And I love Guillermo del Toro. I mean, Shape of Water was fantastic. Pacific Rim is very underrated. He did the Hellboy movies. He did Pan's Labyrinth. So I love Guillermo del Toro. So right now, he's coming up with this is what I call a Kid Kritic cast, alright? Listen to this. So he has Bradley Cooper starring in this movie, who is amazing. Obviously, he just got nominated for A Star is Born, which he was amazing in that movie. And then his co-star is supposed to be Toni Collette, who should have gotten an Oscar nomination for Hereditary, if not one, because I thought she had one of the best performances of that year. I mean, last year, right, was when Hereditary came out. I thought she was just, it was just, but why? Why was she not nominated? So you also got her. You also got Richard Jenkins, who was in Shape of Water, so that's really cool. And you got Hellboy himself, Ron Perlman, who is just one of my favorite actors. I mean, Hellboy to Sons of Anarchy. I love Ron Perlman. He's done a bunch of smaller movies, and I love him. And speaking of Willem Dafoe, he's also in talks to be in this movie, and I love me some Willem Dafoe. And the two actresses in talks to be in this movie is Cate Blanchett, who's, I mean, it's obvious she's one of the greatest actresses working today. And you have Rooney Mara, who's also brilliant. Now, this cast as well, so what I like to say is the Kid Kritic cast. Now, this movie is, I believe, a remake. Now, it's called Nightmare Alley. It's a remake of another movie, which is based off of a book. Now, I'm probably going to mess up the synopsis really bad, so bear with me here. So, this movie is about routes about Stan Carlisle, I can't pronounce this character's last name, who joins a traveling carnival and unsuccessfully schemes to figure out the mind-reading act of, I'm probably going to mess up this person's name, the mind-reading act of Mademoiselle Zena, I did that pretty well, and her alcoholic husband Pete. But when Pete dies, Zena is forced to take on Stan as a partner, and he quickly proves more gifted than his predecessor, ambitious to a fault. It's not long before Stan goes out on his own to mixed results. Now that sounds something like very different for Del Toro, because he's obviously done a lot more sci-fi stuff, or sci-fi romance, I guess you can say. But this definitely seems like something different, which again, like I said before, it makes a great filmmakers that they do great things in a variety and different genres of film. Now this definitely looks like Guillermo del Toro, and I love Del Toro, like I've said before, so I am so excited to see this because of the cast, that Kid Kritic cast, because of the synopsis. I've never seen the original, nor do I know anything about the book. However, I've heard of the title, and I obviously love Guillermo del Toro, so I'm definitely excited. I'm sure you guys are excited as well, especially when you hear a cast like that. Now, another director that's been in the news lately is by a guy by the name of James Wan. Now, James Wan is another one of my favorite filmmakers out there. He just did Aquaman, obviously, which was a huge hit, absolutely huge hit. And then he did Furious 7 before that, which was actually one of my favorite Fast and the Furious movies. And then he did the Conjuring films, which is probably one of the best horror films in the last 10 years, if not. I'd probably put the first Conjuring, to be honest, in there as one of my favorite horror films of all time. And he also did the Insidious films, he did the Saw films, and now he's going back to his roots and doing an original horror film, which I think is awesome, because like what I've said millions of times before, going from a big film to a smaller film really makes a director's creativity fresh, because right after this he's gonna go do Aquaman 2. Like I said with Christopher Nolan, he did movies in between the Dark Knight films, and I think this is just a great thing for James Wan. He also posted some pictures on his Instagram of it looks like some haunted mental institute, which looks insane, and I love it. Apparently this is where they shot Saw, and it is some great stuff. I am so hyped for this movie. You don't really know anything else other than it's an original horror movie, unless it's going to take place in some mental institute. There's a picture of a window with horses in it. There's a picture of just dummies It is. There's a picture that says "Exit to Hill Street," whatever that means. I'm sure it's going to have a lot to do with the film, but I am so excited. I love James Wan. There's yet to be a movie I don't like, because I love the first. I haven't seen the Insidious films or the Saw films. However, the first Conjuring is amazing. I think Conjuring 2 is very underrated. I don't think it's as good as the first one. However, I do really like Conjuring 2. He did Furious 7, which I had a blast with. Then he did Aquaman, which I thought was pretty fun. I didn't like it as much as other people, but I thought it was fun overall. Now, I am so hyped for this. So with that said, guys, with all that news out of the way, this is the main thing going on this episode. We're going to do our Once Upon a Time in Hollywood spoiler review. Now, I'm first going to give off my non-spoilery thoughts, and then after that, I'm going to give off some spoilery stuff. So if you have not seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I get to that point, make sure to go watch it and come back and listen to the rest of this episode of the Kid Kritic Movie Podcast. Now, going into the movie, I was really excited. And by the way, check out the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood review on the Kid Kritic channel, but I'll first give off my quick non-spoilery thoughts. Now, I enjoyed the film very much. I think Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio just had a wonderful chemistry in the film and definitely carried the film. There's lots of fantastic performances. I mean, you had Kurt Russell in there, you had Al Pacino, you had Margot Robbie in there as your supporting cast, and a bunch of other people in there, and they were all great. They pop in for 5 seconds. However, this movie does have issues. I do think it does run in a little too long in the tooth. I definitely think Sharon Tate was way underused in this film, and I think there's a couple other nitpicks that I have with the film, but overall I really enjoyed the movie. I mean, like I said before, and then that crazy third act is absolutely nuts. So with that said, guys, I'm about to get into my spoiler thoughts. So if you have not seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, make sure to check it out and come back and listen to the rest of this podcast. So with that said, guys, let's get into these spoilers. Now, the first thing I want to start off with, now, this movie proves that Tarantino loves to change history. I mean, when those Manson killers get slaughtered, wow. I mean, from Tarantino killing Hitler to all the events that happened in Django Unchained, I mean, there should be a history class that just teaches Tarantino history. Like, there should be a big, huge, long, thick Tarantino history book, like, just as big as the Star Wars Encyclopedia. Like, it is incredible. Now, something that I realized about this movie, it shows that it made me also realize something about a lot of Tarantino's movies, especially like Pulp Fiction and Glorious Bastards, and a lot of those films, is that a lot of his movies are like little vignettes leading up to a huge climax that is amazing, and that's definitely this movie, because you have the stuff happening with Leonardo DiCaprio at the set, which was fantastic. When he talks to that girl and with the books, oh, that was so good. And then when he rages in the trailer was probably one of my favorite scenes of all time, and I just couldn't stop dying. It was utterly fantastic. To Brad Pitt having his little adventure going to that like Manson Ranch, which I also thought was a really intense scene. And by the end, I don't really think it had much of a payoff at the end, but it was definitely a great scene. I mean, him with his dog in that trailer was hilarious, because I love dogs, and his relationship with his dog. I mean, I just want to see a whole movie like that. I want to see a whole Turner and Hooch all about that. It was just fantastic. And then you have the Margot Robbie stuff, and while I did find it enjoyable, I mean, look, I see why Tarantino had used Sharon Tate as a way to say, oh, look, she's all successful. Meanwhile, Rick Dalton's all going down the food chain in Hollywood and is only having these like supporting roles in these little TV shows. And meanwhile, Sharon Tate's having this very successful career. But you don't really need Sharon Tate in this film as much. Like, you probably could have showed her like having this big house, or getting all these roles like in the background, and that could have killed a lot of the runtime. But at the same time, you still send out the message that you want to send out with less runtime. Because to be honest, I think Sharon Tate does not need as big of a role in this movie. I mean, yes, the end scene definitely, which was, oh my god, that was so great. And can you imagine if they kept Margot Robbie as Sharon Tate under wraps and just pops in out of nowhere, but then people realize, oh, I don't know if that's Sharon Tate. Well, I'm sure you can figure it out, but that would be legendary. But yeah, I did have some problems with that. Now people are talking about, oh my god, the car scenes are so long, and I agree with them. To be honest, I agree with them. Even though I see what Tarantino's doing, he's trying to show off the Hollywood in the 60s, which I think was great. I definitely think it would be cool if maybe you got 2 car scenes, not a million car scenes of showing off Hollywood. I see what he's doing. By the way, the production design in this film, you definitely see where the money went, other than your big stars. But the production design in this film is phenomenal. There is no CGI, no special effects, and that was just fantastic. And definitely saw Tarantino embrace that, maybe a little bit too much in my opinion, but it was just breathtaking to see. Now, there's been a lot of controversy of how they handled Bruce Lee, and I get it. Now, I'm not in their position, but especially with that car scene, because they're like, oh, he's not as a jerk. But Bruce Lee's daughter, I believe, came out and said, now look, I see what Tarantino's doing, making a more comical version of Bruce Lee, which I definitely saw as well, and she accepted it, which I thought was really classy of her. But to be honest, even though I'm not coming from there, I get where people are coming from. I definitely do. But I didn't mind it. I didn't really mind how they used Bruce Lee. Though I get why people would be offended by it, but I thought that car scene was hilarious. I thought it was absolutely hilarious with him and Brad Pitt, and then Kurt Russell's wife comes in there. I thought that was a really funny scene in my opinion. But again, I do see why people would be offended. But overall, I didn't mind how they used them. But I definitely thought that scene of him like towards the end was just useless. Like when they show what people are doing after that 10 years, I don't think you need to show Bruce Lee. But whatever. Now I wanted to get in to this third act, because the third act is where the magic happens. Well, first of all, the highlight moment, not just the third act, but the whole entire movie, is when Leo gets the flamethrower and torches the Manson killer in the pool. Now, people are like, oh, well, it's in the pool. Who cares? It's a Tarantino movie. It was so good. There's some great callbacks in this movie, by the way, from the flamethrower to the acid cigarette, which was great. When Brad Pitt starts laughing, oh, that was like one of my favorite moments in the film. It had me cracking up. And then when he takes his dog on the walk, I'm like, oh no, I don't want anything bad happen to the dog. I'm not even thinking about Brad Pitt. I don't want anything to happen to the dog. But I thought that was also really funny. And something about Brad Pitt's character that I also thought they did a really good job with was showing, because he killed his wife, supposedly, maybe, who knows, but I thought they did a good job of showing that scene where it's like, oh, well, what do you think happened? Now, it didn't really bother me, but I thought that scene was actually really good. But anyways, getting back to the third act, I wanted nothing to happen to the dog, and obviously nothing happened. So when they drive up to the house, and then DiCaprio comes out with this margarita and absolutely just screams at him like an old man, it was amazing. Oh my goodness, I couldn't stop cracking up. It was just a phenomenal scene. And to be honest, a lot of people say Brad Pitt's a standout, and I agree with them. He's amazing, but DiCaprio's a standout for me. He is so good, especially in that scene. He is utterly great. So then Brad Pitt comes back, and then the Manson killers arrive at the house, and then you have that intense stare down. And then they have their hilarious back and forth, which I can't recite at the moment because I don't have an amazing brain, but whatever. And then his dog, Brad Pitt's dog, goes to town on all of them, and it is violent, and it is, I know I sound like a psychopath killer, but it is amazing. Oh my god. I mean, when Brad Pitt slams that girl's face into the phone like a billion times, I'm like, oh, and then she starts screaming and runs out into the pool. And DiCaprio's reaction in that pool was played perfectly, because it first shows you when he's just like silent and quiet, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's like, what is going on? And and he gets out of the pool, and then he comes back like, and he comes back like the Terminator with the flamethrower. All you needed was that great Terminator score, like dun 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 dun. Oh, that would be great. And he absolutely torches the human, and it is great. And then he comes out at the end of it, and obviously they win. And his wife, the girl that plays his wife, is so good. In that moment when the dog's scratching at the door, like, let me in, and she lets the dog in. I'm like, yes. But then Margot Robbie comes out at the end and invites him over, which I thought was a great scene, because it's obviously contradicting what actually happened, as Tarantino usually does. That's what I said. We need a Tarantino history class. So with that said, I wasn't going to go in depth with the spoiler review. However, I was going to talk about like some amazing parts of the film. Obviously, the third act, there was a lot of great moments. I definitely thought in the beginning they showed too much of like the stuff, like because when they went over the sheriff show that DiCaprio was in, I think they showed a little too much of that. I don't really think we needed it. But there are a lot of great scenes in the first 2 acts, obviously. When he's on set with the little girl, the trailer scene, when Brad Pitt is in the trailer with his dog, when he's at the ranch with all the Mansons there. And by the way, the kid who's going to play Elvis, and he plays, oh my god, I forgot the character's name in this movie, but he was really good in the film now. This is showing me like, oh my god, he's an amazing actor. No, because he doesn't really have as big of a role. However, I do think that he was really good in the movie. So overall, I had a blast with this movie. There were some great scenes in the first 2 acts. It did run a little bit too slow. And again, for the reasons I've said, Sharon Tate and Margot Robbie were a bit underused. Well, I thought her in the theater and that whole little thing, I thought that was cool, but the message that Tarantino's trying to send out, you could have cut that shorter and done it a different way where it's shorter. But the third act is great. DiCaprio's great. Brad Pitt's great. Margot Robbie's great. And then Al Pacino is fantastic. He's only like in a scene and a half, but he is really, really good. And I actually think Kurt Russell's in the movie more than he is, but it is fantastic. If you have not seen it, if you haven't seen it while you're listening to this, but make sure to check it out. Am I gonna buy it on Blu-ray? I don't know, it depends what the steelbook looks like, because Kid Kritic looks at the fancy looking steelbooks, which by the way, I got pre-ordered my Endgame steelbooks. That looks just fantastic. But anyways, we're just getting way out of proportion here. But with that said, that is it, guys. That is it. I had a blast, even though I did this for the second time. But I love talking about movies. I can talk about this all day, so I don't really care. This was a blast. I'm sure it was a blast for you guys too, because every Kid Kritic episode of the Kid Kritic Movie Podcast is fantastic. So with that said, guys, don't forget to search up the Kid Kritic on YouTube and make sure to like and subscribe and watch all the videos, and also follow at Kid Kritic 1 on the Instagrams, and look out for the next episode of the Kid Kritic Movie Podcast, where we talk about movies and all that other fun stuff. And yeah, that is a wrap, folks, and you guys know it. Peace.